Hello, religion thinkers. Today we answer the question, what is myth? There are a few viewpoints, so let's get right to it. According to a Google definition, myth is a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining some natural or social phenomena, and typically involving supernatural beings or events. That's not a bad definition, and it captures something of the essential importance of myth. But the second definition, when Googled, yields this: a widely held but false belief or idea. This is the other view of myth, that it is a bunch of absolute nonsense invented in our evolutionary diapers to explain things that science now better explains. So myth is either meaningful, according to the first view, or just nonsense, according to the second. That's a huge gulf. What do better experts say? Remember what J.R.R. Tolkien said of myth. Just as speech is invention about objects and ideas, so myth is invention about truth. We have come from God, and inevitably, the myths woven by us, though they contain error, will also reflect a splintered fragment of the true light, the eternal truth that is with God. I like Tolkien's definition best, I think, and let me explain why. Take the Adam and Eve story, for example, a classic biblical myth of our creation. The hard-nosed atheist would say that the story is pure fabrication, utter nonsense. On the opposite hand, the fundamentalist or literalist would reject this view entirely, claiming that this is just the way it happened. Now, that would imply that evolution is false, and if you agree with Bishop Ussher's calculations that the world is only about 6,000 years old, and not the 4.5 billion years that science has demonstrated. Now, neither of those extremes is really appealing to me, and I suspect they probably weren't appealing extremes to Tolkien either. A middle-of-the-road approach on myth would reject its absolute literal truth, but also claim that it's not without meaning. This allows you to accept scientific claims like evolution and also religious meanings. In the Adam and Eve story, if you recall from our past video, Tolkien thought we were soaked with a sense of exile. We aren't where we belong, and we have a longing to get to someplace better. A longing for heaven or utopia, perhaps, but a longing all the same. Tolkien, of course, thought that some myths were simply true. The historical accuracy and truth of the Gospels he did not deny. Now, what parts of our religious beliefs capture truth, and what parts may reflect only a fragment of it, will constantly be debated. This is the bold but mysterious turf of our minds we call myth. It is where meaning is manufactured and hopes sustained. Let me offer my own simplified definition from my Star Wars, Tolkien, and Religion class. Myth is a story, often involving heroes whose adventures may tell us about ourselves, our lives, or the world we live in. Myth is like celebrated story with the best characters, plot, and is meaningful. We may be pleased by the story's end and feel engaged with the world about us. Unlike countless bad stories which litter the bookshelves and theaters and are forgotten as soon as they are released, good myths are like exalted stories. They survive for generations. Stories that are unforgettable, not just for their characters, their plots, or their settings, but because of a truth they tell which runs straight to our hearts.